Hi everybody, this is Dan Stolebarger. It's the week of January 11th, and yes, we're taking KFIR Middle East update on the road. I'm down here in San Diego, which is why the sunglasses are on. I sent a post to my friends in Idaho yesterday of the sun saying, look what I found. So anyhow, let's jump right in. Just a reminder that in order to access the fullness of this report, you need to get the PDF PowerPoint, which is available on our website at holygroundexplorations.com. So what's going on this week in the Middle East? That's the question, or I guess the things that surround the Middle East. Let's jump right in. This first, I do a thing that I call Newsbites, or just kind of a one-line punch or whatever. Stay classy, Rashida. I don't know if you've heard yet, but we have a pro-Palestinian Muslim as a member of the U.S. Congress from Michigan. And this is a PG report, so I really can't report her words, but she makes a statement concerning Trump. We're going to impeach that, and then you can see the PDF PowerPoint. Also, you'll notice a map on the PowerPoint of the Middle East, and a little sticky note on it that is giving her political views on the nation of Israel. No big surprise that the sticky note simply says Palestine. A month-long joint operation by the IDF has been successful in order to hunt down the perpetrator of the terrorist shooting. If you remember, the woman that was shot, that was pregnant, and her baby died. This person that committed these atrocities has now been apprehended after a month. From Mahmoud Abbas, the leader of that moderate party that we refer to as Fatah. This does not bode well, as his quote is, "I may not have the strength to fight, but I won't die a traitor." Again, it looks as if Trump's ultimate Middle East peace plan is going to be postponed once again due to the elections in Israel, but I wouldn't get my hopes up. Abbas has made it clear no negotiations with the U.S. or accepting anything from the U.S. until the U.S. recants its position on Jerusalem as the capital of the Jewish state. I wouldn't hold my breath concerning that. Because of the elections in Israel, the Kremlin on Wednesday said it had no intentions of interfering in Israeli or any other country's elections. That should come as a relief. And then finally, in the midst of everything that's going on, I will always say keep your eyes on Turkey. Turkish President just recently called off a planned meeting with Trump's national security advisor, John Bolton, in order to avoid discussing the situation with the Kurds in Syria. So if you've got your PowerPoint in front of you, here's the map of the Middle East. And I basically said someone's already made a slight alteration to the map that hangs in Rashid Tlaib's new congressional office. Something else that's taken place in Congress is the whole issue of the Golan Heights. Netanyahu has addressed John Bolton in his visit, basically saying, when you visit, when you're up there, you will understand why we can never give this back. And having been there multiple times, up on top of Ben Tal, looking out over, you can understand the position Israel's in regards to the high ground. And, there were the days that Syria occupied the Golan Heights simply to shoot down at the farmers of the Galilee. That just will not happen. You can count on that. In fact, Ted Cruz has circulated in Congress itself, basically a bill that would give Israel the long overdue step of affirming its sovereignty in the Golan Heights. We'll have to wait and see. It's a political ping pong ball, as you know, especially with what's going on in the Democratic Party, that's basically as anti-Trump as it possibly could be. And so reason has no place. It's if Trump's for it, we're against it. Bottom line, you know all of that. Take a look at this picture. I mean, what gorgeous balloons in this picture. And once again, leave it to the terrorists in Gaza sending this cluster of colorful balloons. Unfortunately, as you look at the picture, you'll see something else that's attached to it, an explosive device that has landed in Israel, did not successfully detonate. But because of this attack, once again, you'll find that in the next article, Israel did strike. Fighter jets and attack helicopters struck a number of terrorist targets. Hamas military camp in the north of the Gaza. Once again, we've got the situation in the Gaza Strip. Threats, saber rattling, a rocket or two being launched. This is far from over, folks, and especially the insidiousness, the horror, the terrorist mindset of launching these gorgeous balloons, which you know would attract as many children as possible to run after balloons, and yet having a explosive device attached to it. It's the heart of terrorism. I mentioned Israel striking Gaza. There's an article here on Iran and the U.S. pullout. Ambassador Dr. Dor Gold is one of the closest foreign policy advisors to Benjamin Netanyahu, and he talks about on one hand, there are those that says no big deal that the U.S. is pulling out. On the other hand, some will say it's a major deal. You can read this article, but really at the heart of it is this planned corridor that Iran has, and you can see its pathway through Syria. So to assume that Iran is going to pull out of Syria is simply foolishness. An article here that I'll leave for you concerning the New York Times. The results of articles like this that talk about the so-called poor Palestinians, that never talk about the Palestinians as targeting Israelis, terrorism of terror tunnels, of these incendiary balloons and stuff like that, and only paints the picture of Israeli soldiers as faceless killing machines and all that. Even with Hamas using civilians as shields, when these sort of articles come out, it emboldens Hamas to just maintain their position and do more of the same. That's the danger. Again, you can take a look at that article. With the situation of the ultimate peace plan, here's the bottom line. Until Hamas and Fatah can lay down their arms against one another, the reality is, why bring Israel into this equation? The Palestinians against the Palestinians with their bloody wars and just terror tactics between one another, until that's resolved, there's not going to be any way that there's going to be negotiations of peace with Israel. I wanted to end on a good note. Let me see what's left. There's the anti-BDS situation that's going on in our Congress. With the 2020 elections coming up, many Democrats, I think there's over 20 that have not yet decided if they're going to run, but have shown interest. It appears that the Democratic Party is taking the steps towards being against any anti-BDS. And it's a sad state of affair. It's a political ping pong ball, but let's keep our eyes on that and see what comes to front. We've talked about in these reports often about the rise of anti-Semitism, and sometimes we never think it can happen here, but that's foolish to think about. It's on the rise in the States as well as the EU. Finally, the great news that I was talking about, let me read this to you. There's been a plethora of articles and videos in the Israeli media lately looking very favorably on the subject of Jesus and his story. Article talked yet of another sign that the centuries of bad blood between Jews and Christians are finally giving way to warmer relationships. A quote from a Jewish scholar: Jesus was our flesh and blood, a Jewish superstar, the most influential Jew of all time. Whether it's in the mainstream media or in personal conversations, we are noticing a significant change in attitudes towards Jesus. This is fantastic news. This comes from our friends Ted and Linda Walker, who very close friends of ours, believers, live up in the Galilee and have an amazing ministry to Arabs and Jews as well. And then we'll end on this note. As our study found a couple years ago, there are at least 30,000 Messianic believers that we know of that are attending congregations. But we know that there are many more than that. Some believe that there's another additional 20,000 believers who don't attend any Messianic congregations because either there's not one in their area or the result of profound family and social implications that come when declaring faith in Jesus. So upwards towards 50,000 believers. This is just fabulous news. Be in prayer for us because we're heading to Israel in mid-February. We'll be there for about 40 days. We're doing 4 different tours. One of them in particular is what we call our Talmudim tour, which has to do with work and service. We just do service projects, one in a Messianic congregation in Ashdod, we'll be in Jerusalem, we'll be in Caesarea area, and we just serve. And for us, it's just planting the seeds. We serve in the name of Jesus, and we love Israel because of that. So with that, that's our report for this week. God bless you, and please keep our family in your prayers. We're down here with my son. As many of you know, he has cancer, and we're spending as much time with him as we possibly can before we're off to Israel. So God bless you, and shalom.